Mr. Speaker, we are honored to be joined today on the floor of the Legislative Assembly by George O'Donnell. George is a lifetime resident of the Miramichi region. For most of his life, George and his wife Ruth lived in Boys Town, New Brunswick, where he was the principal of the Upper Miramichi High School. If you're wondering how you know his name, you may remember him as the Progressive Conservative candidate in the ballot in New Brunswick general election of October 26, 1970. That election was the last election in New Brunswick which was held under the multi-member system, which saw voters cast ballots by county. While he was not elected to this House at that time, George O'Donnell's name was written in the history of this province at that time. George was on the right side of history, as the election saw Richard Hatfield begin his 17-year term as the Premier of New Brunswick. Times were certainly different then, better even, and to get to know George O'Donnell only reinforces that. While he was not successful at the election to the House, I am told that George used his political instincts to organize his fellow residents and launch a successful takeover of his retirement home park in Florida. I don't think it was Mar-a-Lago. George is incredibly warm and even more approachable. He is intelligent, humble, sincere, and authentic, characteristics which I think we would all agree are in demand in our society as of late. George and his wife Ruth were pillars in our community and are proud parents of 2 sons, Brent and Andrew. Andrew is with him here today. In his 24th year as a parish priest with the Anglican Church of Canada. Brent has more than 20 years service with the New Brunswick Liquor Corporation, nearly a lifetime sentence. If it is true, Mr. Speaker, that the members of the House were stand on their shoulders of giants, then George O'Donnell is a giant. As a member of Southwest Miramichi, I stand on the shoulders of my predecessor, Jake Stewart. Jake Stewart stood on the shoulders of Brent Taylor, who stood on the small shoulders of Norm Betts. Norm Betts stood on the shoulders of Andy Dawson, although he seemed to forget that. Andy Dawson stood on the shoulders of Donnie Long. Donnie Long stood on the shoulders of our very own Kevin Price, who was short but lively. Kevin stood on the shoulders of Sterling Hambrook, and it was Sterling Hambrook who was the beneficiary of standing on the very strong shoulders of George O'Donnell. I would not be a member of the House today, Mr. Speaker, if not for George O'Donnell. Because of his lifetime commitment to the province of New Brunswick, to the Miramichi region, and to the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick, I am forever in his debt. George, welcome to the People's House. Thank you for your lifetime of service to the province and to the generations of its young people whom you provide education, guidance, and clear direction.